Hey, I'm Ryan with Warner Discovers, and this is 50 pounds of tomatoes. Recently I did some research on how to take care of my tomatoes in the garden, and I came across this awesome video of this Italian grandmother here. She showed the process in canning the tomatoes, and it looked pretty straightforward, and I figured why not give it a go. Went over to Wilson Farms in Lexington and bought a bushel of tomatoes, which is an equivalent to 50 pounds of tomatoes, for 40 bucks. And ended up grabbing a bunch of these ball glass jars from Target. I think it was like 20 bucks for two wide mouth, packs of pints. So ended up using OXO food mill as well, as you'll see in the steps next, for milling up all the tomatoes, getting the skins and seeds out. For 50 pounds of tomatoes, I ended up getting 17 jars, which I think is pretty great for 40 bucks, 17 jars of pure tomato sauce. I labeled them all, and then I'll probably just stick them in the basement. But just wanted to show you my process, and I followed her directions from that Italian grandmother video. Wanted to share it with you guys. Hopefully this helps show my process. So I just picked up a bushel of Roma tomatoes, and I'm going to basically make these into a sauce. So I took out about half of them, and you can see here that I rinsed and scrubbed them and then dried them off, and then this is about half of that box. So now I'm gonna go to the next step, which is cutting up the tomatoes. One thing I also wanted to point out while I was cutting these tomatoes is taking this iodized salt or just regular salt, and just drizzling it over. You can see here that I sprinkled some over the tomatoes, just kind of in layers, so that salt gets distributed throughout. So I just finished quartering up all these tomatoes, which is like a half of the box that I got. So I pretty much just quartered each of them and took out the stem and just like the white parts from the middle. And now we're just gonna let them drain for at least over an hour. So I got everything that I could to drain these out. Unfortunately, I only have one colander, so these have been sitting out for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and now we're just gonna throw them in the stock pot. I got the other ones over there, and we're gonna cook them down. So I added that first batch of tomatoes, and you can see how much water is coming out now as we're boiling them up. So it'll definitely compress, and then we can add these, and then hopefully we can fit these in as well. I had to break out another stock pot, but you can see that we're boiling away, and we'll probably do this for about an hour or longer, since it's already been going about an hour or so, maybe a little longer than that. But I just keep pushing it around with my wooden spatula, making sure the bottom doesn't burn. So this has been going for like an hour and 45 minutes now. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it off the stove and bring it over to the food mill here and get all the skins and seeds out, and hopefully get a nice sauce going on here. I'm midway doing the food mill right now. Emptied this whole stock pot. Still got another one over there, and you can see it's really separating it pretty well. I'll put this back in here when I'm done with this portion. So I ran both stock pots through the food mill, and you can see all the skins left over. Just did a really good job. Just did it right over this bowl, and just basically ran this counterclockwise or clockwise or whatever, both ways. And now it all fits into one pot. So now we're gonna boil it for another like hour or so before we can it. So I got this sauce boiling for about an hour and a half now, and the consistency is looking really, really good. So I got my jars ready to go. I got some fresh basil, and I'm just gonna pour some of this while it's boiling into the jar. Take a top, put it right on there, and then tighten up the cap tight. Put it over here, and then lay just like a cloth over it, so it'll cool down slower than if it was just to instantly sort of cool down by itself. So I'm taking this Pyrex, putting it in here, pouring it in the jar. Leaving a little bit of room up at the top. Take his cap, putting it on. And then I'll pretty much hold the base with the towel. Bring it over here after tightening it. And then just put it upside down. So we're all done. I got the skins and the seeds in this bag. I'm going to save these for like a stock, throw them in the freezer. And then we got 8 jars of pasta here, pasta sauce. So those are cooling down, and then in the morning we'll check them to see if the tops pop up or not, and if there's any leakage in this pan. So it's the next day, and we took these out from under the towels, and they are looking great. You can see the basil's in there, the sauce is looking really good, all the caps, you can't press the tops, and they're all really sealed well. There you have it. That was my process going through it. It took about, grand total, buying the jars and the tomatoes took about $60, excluding the food mill. Yeah, it was super straightforward. It did take a while to do that whole process, cleaning the tomatoes, drying the tomatoes. I think it'll definitely be worth it, and can't wait to have this coming fall and winter. So the process basically goes like this: clean the tomatoes, dry the tomatoes, cut up the tomatoes, sprinkle salt on the tomatoes, let them dry out for a little bit and drip all the water out, and then boil those tomatoes down so they all break down. Food mill it, and then boil that sauce that you get from the mill down to a consistency that you like, and then put it in the jars and seal them and let them cool down overnight. So the whole process definitely took a little while. I wouldn't recommend starting at 4 in the afternoon. I didn't end up finishing the first batch until midnight. I ended up dividing up that 50 pounds of tomatoes. I did 25 pounds in one batch and another 25 pounds in the next batch. Did my best to guess how much it was. I did like half. Definitely recommend that as well, because I wouldn't have had enough space to do all 50 pounds at once and enough kitchen utensils. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and make sure to subscribe. Thanks.